This is a response video to a video I've seen recently about space travel by a guy named Philhellenes, I think. Whatever, I'll put his username in the description. In his video, he basically discussed different ways we get up to the speed of light. But even then, that'll still take years. The closest star is 4 light years away. If we were at light speed, it would take us 4 fucking years just to get there. And who knows what could go wrong before we get there. But I digress. Our current technology, we barely get out of our own atmosphere. We've managed to get men to the moon once. And yes, we did it. Don't believe the conspiracy theorists. That's disproven. There's even objects on the moon you could probably see with the telescope. To use a perfectly good metaphor, we have to crawl before we can walk. We have to walk before we can run. In terms of where we are as a civilization, we still basically burn dinosaurs for fuel. That's really not going to work in space travel. You're not going to want to lug a bunch of chemical fuel, which can't get you that far. Like Phil said in his video, it takes an awful lot of fuel to move a humongous amount of fuel, to move a tremendous amount of fuel if you're using chemical-based fuels, which you probably wouldn't want to use for deep space travel. You probably wouldn't want to use for terrestrial travel, which we've not even mastered yet. We've only got to the moon once. In terms of our space traveling technology, it's super primitive. I mean, sure, we have solar panels, but they have their limits. They're not actually that much gathering energy. We don't even have artificial gravity. We don't have proper radiation shielding. Like if you were outside the little Earth's magnetic bubble, you'd probably fry. And the closest thing we have to making that amount of shielding is by having a bunch of water around the ship. I mean, we can barely land on the moon. We've only done it a handful of times. The Mars mission is like a decade away, I think, if they can actually get it off the ground. So we can't be thinking about zooming to Alpha Centauri yet. We have to master the planets around us, and then we can take the big leap. There's so much of our solar system we could colonize and explore. We've got hundreds of moons around the big gas giants. We've got 2 worlds we could colonize and make exactly like Earth with terraforming. Mars and Venus, we've barely gotten out of the fucking cave. We have to practice before we get in the deeper waters of deep space travel, if you get my metaphor. The way we travel through the solar system now was basically by using the gravitational pull of other planets to slingshot us around. So if we somehow fuck up, we're screwed and left floating in space. We need to be able to build ships that have their own power, can travel through our solar system, survive radiation, be fast enough to be able to get back from whichever planet in the solar system back to Earth, maybe a few hours, days, or months. Have to make it to where, they know where they're going. Like, how would you make it to where they'd see? What kind of radar would you use? You just have like a bunch of cameras outside the ship, a bunch of light sensors sensing heat and radiation, and maybe like a 3D map in your ship that tracks where you are with a bunch of satellites around the solar system, something like that. Now here's an idea. You know how solar panels basically use light as power? That's the name, solar panel. Imagine, basically light is radiation. Imagine if you could do that with any wavelength of radiation. Imagine if you had a spaceship powered by radiation. That would be like having a submarine powered by water. There is a promising new power source, which is renewable and nearly infinite in its amount of power. Well, not at once, but in terms of how much you can get out of it. Overall, basically uses the power of the sun on Earth. Basically uses nuclear fusion, if I pronounce that right. They've started testing it. They have a huge ass facility. It takes billions of dollars to run. They hadn't even tested it yet. They have to shoot a bunch of laser beams at this molecule, and it'll basically create a mini sun. And if you could put that in a ship, you probably wouldn't have to worry about it. You could probably use some of that excess energy, I don't think you can shut it off, to maybe make a shield, an energy shield that blocks radiation. Maybe make gravity by using electromagnetism. That's some ideas. In terms of deep space travel, what I actually think is we're going to have to spend a few hundred years in our own solar system, colonizing it, stretching our legs a bit, mastering terrestrial space travel, mastering surviving in space, mastering ships that can people can live on comfortably and are safe no matter what. Well, maybe not no matter what, but in space before we start sending people out with big ass engines to go faster than light. Because if we went slower than light, it'll take too long. We don't want to do something stupid like just send a bunch of people on the ship really slowly and expect them to be fine for 40 fucking years on a ship. They'd go batshit crazy of super mega awesome, amazing cabin fever, and who knows what could go wrong within that 40 years in deep space by yourself. Another option was to send a bunch of frozen fetuses to be raised by robots when they get there. Still, who knows what could happen over the 40-year journey. That's to our nearest star, which is 4 light years away at 10th speed of light, which getting up to that speed would be a real bitch. So, could you imagine being raised by a robot? How psychologically that could fuck you up? How your parents would be so different from you, and how advanced would those robots be? Would they be human-like? Would they be cold machines who might make mistakes and scar you psychologically, or not be able to give you love or compassion? You grow up cold and like mean. Who knows what kind of psychological effects it'll have, and how the robots, if they break down, will they fix each other? Or so we're just supposed to send a bunch of robots. They're just gonna raise people on another planet. They're supposed to spend a few hundred years building up their technology to do the same thing. But by that time, we may be able to actually get there. That just seems kind of ridiculous. It seems kind of stupid. We might as well just wait until we perfect faster than light travel. Now, if you're somewhat scientifically inept, going faster than light is supposedly impossible. But there are ways around that where you don't actually go faster than light. If you've ever seen Star Trek, you know how their ships work. Warp bubbles. You warp time and space. You warp, space smaller in the front of the spaceship, and you warp it bigger in the back. And that won't move you faster than light, but that'll move the space around you faster than light. And you could easily get around the stars, although how you do that in space and time, you'd have to have one hell of a power source. But who knows, of the next 100 years, what kind of technological advances we will have. Maybe we'll be able to mass produce antimatter and figure out ways to bend time and space. Rumorly, with conspiracy theorists, we can already bend time and space a little bit, though those are just rumors. And you're probably wondering why we should go into space. Why not? There's so much room. As of now, there's nearly 7 billion people in this world. We're already stretching resources. That fucking 60% of our planet is water. We need to stretch out so much of the universe. We can barely see 1% of 1% of 1% of what's probably out there. And that's probably underestimating it. There's so much space, so many things we can explore. Who knows what and who is out there. This little blue ball is so fragile. It's finite. The little red burning ball that we float around is also finite. So is the swirling soup of stars we float in is finite. The universe itself is finite. In about 30 billion years, it's gonna perspire. Although I'm sure way before that, we'll probably be able to make our own universe. The reason I made this response video to his video, because I too have always dreamed of going out into space. I love anything science fucking fiction. I used to draw aliens all the time when I was little. I'd watch shows on TLC and Discovery Channel about UFOs, and my favorite type of shows are like made up documentaries where they go to alien planets and look at the wildlife. I've always wanted to do that. But I doubt in my lifetime I'll get anywhere near space, especially how things are going on Earth. Unless, I get to live a few hundred extra years, who knows what will happen in the next couple of decades. But I've always wanted to meet an alien. Hopefully, one day we'll meet them and I'll be around, or they'll meet us and they won't quite be as hostile as we are, and we'll get over our inner monkeys like he said in his video. I've always wanted to explore space and meet all kinds of aliens. Maybe one day I will, who knows. But I'm pretty sure one day we will crawl away off this planet and explore the cosmos. It's only a matter of time.